Welcome back. Let's continue with our lecture on general theory of relativity. Today we are going to cover some of the important topics such as energy and momenta. Especially energy observed by a time-like observer is a very important concept which will be used throughout the course. Energy and momentum. This is a part of course PH 4205 at IISER Calcutta. Let's first talk about the relativistic momenta. From Lagrangian point of view, earlier we have defined the relativistic momenta as PA is equal to dl by dx dot A. Now note that I have changed the upper to lower because now you have a proper understanding of both upper and lower indices. By going by that, momenta defined in this way would be a covariant vector, and then we have L as our Lagrangian, which is a scalar or function. Now L is defined as m by 2 t dot square minus x dot square minus y dot square minus z dot square, or in m by 2 into GAB x dot A x dot B. I have also added m and half. Earlier when we are getting equation of motion, it didn't matter all these constant because we know that the equation of motion is not sensitive to the constant given here. But since here we are defining a momenta and mass especially, so we would require these constant to have a proper value. So this is a kinetic energy. This generalization from classical mechanics, that is a half mv square. So in terms of generalized coordinate, or in terms of generalized coordinate, we could write in terms of a metric tensor and generalized coordinate. Now we know that the for velocity UA is given as a t dot x dot y dot and z dot, that is a for velocity. Often we write it as a gamma into 1 minus vector u. Vector u is the spatial velocity. We also have another notation x dot a, which is a shorthand for dxa by ds. ds here could be arc length parameter, and this is what we call the for velocity. For time-like trajectories, we normalize the for velocity, that is ua is equal to 1. But for null, we have a ua is equal to 0. That is along with the light propagates. From this, we get for momenta as p lower index A is equal to m into GAB into x dot A plus x dot P. Now we see that again we rearrange the dummy indices, and this is gives the same value. The 2 get cancelled with the half, and then we get the result m into GAB x dot B. This is the expression for generalized for momenta. It is a covariant component. We can also get the contravariant component by raising the indices using the metric tensor, and that is PA is equal to GAP, it should have been B, GAB, PB, and then we have written this as a GAP, GPB, x dot B, and that is equal to m into x dot A. That is essentially momenta is mass into velocity of the particle. This looks like a straightaway generalization of Newtonian momenta, which is a momentum is mass into velocity. In this case, it is a for momentum that is equivalent to mass into for velocity. Now, for a time-like curve, we have m square is given by p dot p, or PA, that is what we call the dot product, and that is called the rest mass of the particle. Often we have a habit of setting that rest mass of a particle to 1, but however at some stage, if it is important, we need to keep. If it is just usually comes as a scaling factor, then we can ignore it. And then for the light or null curves, we have PA is equal to 0. And there is no concept of a rest mass for the light. Light is a zero mass particle. More proper way of telling it is null tangent vector, or PA for momenta is a null vector. Let's look at concept of a rest mass. In a frame, rest with respect to particle, we have for velocity UA as a 1 0 0 0, and for momentum the contravariant component, it is just mass into velocity, and you have a PA is equal to m times 1000, which means that you have a particle rest in your frame, or you are sticking to a frame to the particle, and that frame would be rest with respect to particle. That is what we call often the rest frame of the particle, and that will be always moving with the velocity ua is equal to 1000. Here we have m square is equal to pa, and that is why we call it a rest mass. Let's consider a frame which is moving with respect to particle, or you can also view it as a particle moving with respect to a frame with the 4 velocity ua. Now for velocity we write as a gamma into 1 minus v, and pa is a m into ua, and that is equal to m gamma into 1 into v. Now again we take a pa, we get a m square. It's a straightforward calculation. Since the velocity is normalized, we always get a pa is equal to m square. It doesn't depend on the frame, any frame with which it is measured. So it is an inherent property of the particle, which is a rest mass. The rest mass does not change depending on the velocity of the particle. It is always fixed, and it is a magnitude of its 4 momenta, whether particle is moving or rest, whatever it is. Because here throughout the course we are using the unit c is equal to 1, m is equal to e. So we are completely missing out on the famous equation E is equal to mc square, simply because we are using the natural unit where c is equal to 1. In our case, E simply becomes 1. You might have studied that mass of the particle would observer dependent quantity. It is a somewhat strange, or sometime often also called a misconception. It is actually zeroth component of energy momentum vector, or 4 momenta, that which is changes depending on the who is observing, and that is observing quantity, that you may take it as a mass of the particle, but it is not the rest mass. You see that that would often come as m into gamma, and it depends on how fast observer moves. So here comes a very important concept, that some of these quantities are observer dependent. This is not usually convenient, or when there is a quantity which observer dependent, it leads to a lot of inconvenience, because a covariant formalism requires everything to be written in terms of proper definition, and this is where we come across the definition of energy or mass of a 4 momenta as seen by a time-like observer. Let's look at the definition. Let's consider a time-like observer who is moving with the 4 velocity VA. Let PA be the 4 momentum of a physical system or particle, then the energy corresponding to PA as seen by O is given by E is equal to PAVA, the dot product which gives the energy. So it is clearly states that the given a 4 momentum and given a time-like observer, you could have an energy of 4 momentum observed by the observer moving at 4 velocity. So it depends on both observer as well as the 4 momentum which you are observing. So it's a very important definition. We will be using this throughout the course, and it is completely covariant. It comes as a scalar. We could easily transform it from one frame to another frame. Let's try to understand this by taking the various examples which we have already gone through. As we have already seen that if the both observer and particle are rest in a frame, or that means that if the observer itself is a rest with respect to particle, then the observer's 4 velocity VA would be 1000, and the 4 momentum or the momenta of the particle would be m1000. And then we see that the dot product between them would be simply gives m, or that E is equal to m. This is a famous relation, that E is equal to mc square. And this is straight away from the definition for the observer who is rest with respect to particle with the momentum Pa would be the rest mass or rest mass energy. Now let's consider the next case. In this case, your observer is a rest in an inertial frame and whose velocity is given by 1000. That means basically he is following the time-like line and there is no spatial velocity involved. Now, if a particle is moving with the 4 velocity, the UA is equal to gamma p into 1 into u spatial velocity. So the gamma is coming because it belongs to particle, because we are using so many gammas here for observer, particle and so on. To clear that confusion, I have used P for the particle. So the 4 momentum in this case is given by PA is equal to m into gamma p in vector u. And the energy observed by this is that E is equal to GAB PA VB, and we get it is equivalent to m into gamma p. The gamma is basically 1 over square root of 1 minus u square. So it shows that if an observer is rest in a frame and the particle is moving with the velocity ua, the energy of the particle seen by the rest observer is equivalent to m into gamma p. That means it depends on the velocity of particle, and of course this particle is a time-like particle. We have assumed constructing the velocity. Then we see that it blows up as u tends to c, or it is not possible for u to attain the velocity of c. That is one of the laws of special theory of relativity. Now let's do a other way around calculation. Let's say the observer is moving in inertial frame with the 4 velocity ua is equal to gamma o into 1 into vector v. So his observer is moving with the 4 velocity va, and the test particle is rest with respect to that frame. In that frame, the 4 velocity of the particle is given by ua is equal to 1 into 0 vector, and the 4 momentum is given by m into 1 comma vector 0. So the energy of the particle as seen by observer v is given as GAPA-VB, and we get it is m into gamma naught. It doesn't really matter who is actually moving. It could be observer or it could be particle moving with respect to observer. It is a relative velocity which in fact matter, and the gamma factor corresponding to that get multiplied to the rest mass energy of the particle, and that would be the energy seen by an observer. Now let's take a most general case. We have an inertial frame in which an observer is moving with the 4 velocity va, that is gamma o into 1 into spatial velocity v, and the test particle is also moving with the certain velocity ua, which is gamma p into 1 vector u. Now we have a 4 momentum of the particle is given by Pa is equal to m into gamma p 1 into u. Now we see that the energy of the particle as seen by the observer is given by GAB PA VB, that is equal to m into gamma o into gamma p into 1 minus v dot u. So it's an interesting expression. The energy of a particle depending on the velocity or the direction of the velocity in which they move, if they are orthogonal to each other, then you don't see any change in the energy. On the other hand, if you are moving along the same direction, then you would see maximum change in the mass. So it also depends on the magnitude of the velocity as well as the direction of the velocity in which both observer and the 4 momentum is moving along. When we said it is a energy for given 4 momentum as seen by observer ua, we did not mention that 4 momentum is a time-like or null. So it could be anything. We can have a same concept defined for the null trajectories too. In the case of a null trajectory, we can also have the energy. Rest mass may not be there, but there is definitely an energy. So let P with the 4 momentum for light-like or null trajectory, then we have UA or PA is equal to 0. Now we write PA as E naught K. Now PA should be 0. That puts the constraint that the E naught square must be equal to K dot K. So this is how a particle can be defined to be null vector. If an observer is rest in a frame whose for velocity is given by VA 1 0, then the energy seen by that observer is given by E is equal to PAVA, that is equal to E naught. Now what does it mean by the rest observer? Here it means that we have an inertial frame in which the velocity or the momentum of the null vector is given in this form, and in that same frame the velocity of the observer is given by this form. Then we have this energy as seen by this observer is given by simply E naught. Often this is called the emitter of light, because you can think it as an observer who is emitting a light, and the light would be propagating at this speed, and that would be the observer who would be given by the 4 velocity 1 0. So it's a rest observer with respect to the light. It doesn't mean that the observer is moving at the speed of light. It is a mechanism of emission of light which is at the rest. Light itself goes in the null direction. Now, if we have another observer who is moving with respect to this frame and whose velocity is given by VA is equal to gamma into 1V, such case the energy of a null or light rays by this observer is given by E is equal to PAVA, and that is gamma into 1 minus V dot K. Again, this is a Doppler effect. We know that the energy can be written as H nu, that is energy directly proportional to the frequency of radiation, and then that depends on the observer. It also depends on the direction in which the light propagates and the observer propagates. So this is which comes in the Doppler effect. The Doppler effect, we know that if a train is going producing a sound or light, and a person who is watching it would see the modulation or the change in the pitch of the or the frequency of the sound. In this case, you would see that the idea of it depends on the direction straight away comes, because as per this equation, for a given velocity and given position, the change in the frequency would be constant. But as the train moves along, effective angle or K dot V keeps on changing, and that would introduce an additional Doppler effect. It looks like it is modulated and the frequency seems to be keep on changing. What it matters is basically the radial velocity, that is the projection of the velocity to the connecting vector to the direction in which it propagates. If the person is sitting or standing right on the track, then you would simply see here with the fixed sound, because the K dot V is not going to 0, and then when the train banks, and he would completely lose the signal. On the other hand, if you are standing off track, you would see the sound or pitch coming, in this case light, or sound in the case of Doppler. See, you would see that it would be continuously changing, because the direction of the propagation of the sound changes. The source is going in the same direction, but the direction at which sound comes is the effectively different direction. So that makes the modulation depends on the time. Let's do it on the space-time diagram for the light. We have an observer O who is rest, that means whose space-time trajectories are straight lines in the direction of t-axis or parallel to t-axis. And this observer would emit a light which would now go in the null direction, or PA is equal to E naught K. Null direction meant to say that this line is at the 45 degrees. If it is smaller than 45 degrees with respect to time axis, then it would be time-like. If the angle is more than 45 degrees, then it would be space light, but we are considering the propagation of light as emitted by VA at the point O. Now let's say now the energy observed by this observer O for this light ray is given by E naught. That is what we have it here. Now let's say we have another observer who is moving with the velocity VA. If his velocity is 0 with respect to O, then you will have his space-time trajectory along the space-time trajectory is parallel to time axis. But however, he is moving with the velocity, so it makes a small angle. Means that he is moving with some constant velocity, and he has a freedom to go up to 45 degrees. But I have made it, he is a time-like observer. So at some stage, he receives this light emitted from O, and then the energy observed by this observer moving with velocity V is given by this, which has this gamma factor and depends on the direction of the propagation. Now, important thing here to notice is that if the observer O prime is going at the speed of light 2, let's say that there is no concept of observer going at the speed of light. Only light can go at the speed of light, and there can't be a light-like observer. Observer essentially means that the experimental setup or instruments which we can set it up or do an experiment. Similar things cannot be taken at the speed of light. But however, let's make a hypothetical assumption that this observer is moving at the speed of light. Then his trajectory would go like this. That would be also 45 degrees. And this light which is sent from O will never be observed by this observer O prime, because he is also going at the 45 degrees and they are parallel lines which would never meet. So this is to say that the light cannot be observed by another light-like observer. So these are the concept of the energy for a given physical system as seen by the observer. So the idea of observer is very, very important in the case of relativity. This same concept of a Doppler shift, when you translate it into general relativity, it also can give you gravitational red and blue shift and all the related formulas. So the basic idea is this, which we can now easily generalize to the more complicated system for a given complicated metric. One of the important application of all the special relativistic formulation is collision creation and annihilation of particles. So this is mainly application to the elementary particles where you can have two particles with the 4 momentum PA and QA come and collide at a point, and then leave out the 2 particles with the 4 momentum P bar A and Q bar A. In similar way, we have a creation where you have a single particle which comes and produces one more particle or produces 2 particles, and it loses itself. So that way you have a creation where a single particle with the 4 momentum PA splits into 2 particles with the 4 momentum P bar A and Q bar A. You could have annihilation. You can have a time reversal of this. You can have a 2 particle with the momentum PA and QA and then collide and give rise to single particle PA. So in addition to all this, you can also, any one of them could be time-like or null, or all of them. So you can sometime remove one, put one, all that. So the basic formula here is the momentum conservation. Momentum conservation should be applicable, and hence the total momentum for the system is conserved. That is, the total momentum before the collision is given by PA plus QA, and the total momentum after the collision is given by P bar A and Q bar A. So this momentum balance equation is more fundamental equation in all these studies. Let's take an example. In the first example, let's say a time-like particle decays into 2 null particle or photon. The particle get decomposed into light. So we have before the collision, we have a PA, which is a time-like 4 momentum, and which breaks into 2 null 4 momentum P bar A and Q bar A. If we apply this to momentum balance equation, we get to put QA is equal to 0 because we don't have the second particle, and the momentum balance equation lead to PA is equal to P bar A plus Q bar A, and we have PA is equal to m square because PA is a time like for momentum, and then we have P bar A is equal to 0. That means it corresponds to null trajectory, and then we have Q bar A that is also equal to 0. That means that is also equal to light like for momentum. We can choose the rest frame of observer for momentum PA. In such case, for momentum can be written as m into 1 and 0. We have known that the PA is 0, QA is 0. Then what about P bar A dot Q bar A? So this is what we need to know. Then only we can compute the thing. So let's do it explicitly. So P bar A can be given as a EP bar, the energy corresponding to the null trajectory P bar. And then you have a K P bar. So that K is a direction along which the P propagates. And same way we can write it as Q bar A is equal to EQ bar and E and K vector Q bar. These two represents the null trajectory. That means that E square is equal to VP bar dot VP bar, and E square Q bar is equal to VQ bar dot VQ bar. Now let's find out the dot product. We simply apply these two. Let's take the dot product explicitly. P bar A, Q bar A, this gives you EP bar into EQ bar minus K P bar dot KQ bar. Now we take this equation and take the dot product with the both sides. We get P dot P, that is a m square, is equal to 2 P bar A dot Q bar A, because P bar A is equal to 0. Same way Q bar A is also equal to 0. On the other side, it leads to only 2 P bar A into Q bar A. Now we have seen from this relation that is equivalent to 2 into E P bar EQ bar minus K bar P dot K bar Q. Now simplifying this, we get a dot product between the outcoming vector in terms of energy of the product minus m square by 2. So this is the fundamental equation which gives us all the properties of the outcoming particle. If we know the mass of ingoing particle, and then we can estimate the energy or the direction along which this particle comes. If we know the energy, we can predict the direction or the angle at which these two particles are thrown out. Or if we know the angle at which particles are thrown out, then we can find out the product of their energy. So this is how what you do in a experiment which goes in a LHC. When two particles are collided, each of the particles are kept track with this equation. Now their system is far too complicated. There one particle may decay into several, or each of these once decayed particle may give rise to secondary decay and give rise to more particle, and then becomes extremely cumbersome and very elaborate. However, the idea is basically this, and you can in principle compute them all, but the volume become extremely large. Let's go ahead and do another example. In this case, we have a time-like particle decays into two time-like particle instead of a light-like particle. So we have QA is 0 again. From that we get a PA. The momentum balance equation reduces to PA equal to P bar A plus Q bar A, and then we have PA is equal to m square. We have given the mass of outcoming particle, that is P bar A dot P bar A is equal to m1, and Q bar A A equal to m2. This should be m2, and we have to essentially calculate the direction or the angle in which they come out. Let's take the dot product on the both side. What we get is a m square is equal to m1 square plus m2 square plus 2PAQA. This is we need to compute. But let's take the another point of view. We know that the PA is m into gamma p in 1 Vp. So that is the velocity of this particle in the lab frame or wherever this experiment is being done, not attached to particle itself. Then we have their force momentum given for the three particles. One has a incoming particle as a mass m, the outgoing particle as a mass m1 and m2, and the gamma factor is gamma p for incoming and gamma p bar and gamma q bar for outgoing particle. Now we do a simple calculation, and we get that equation that if the observer is rest in the lab, then the energy of various particle or the event as seen by this observer who is rest in the lab is given by E is equal to PA dot UA, that is also equal to P bar A UA Q bar A UA, and that is equal to M is equal to M1 plus M2. So the mass as seen by the rest observer in the lab is totally conserved. So we have m square is equal to m1 square. We have m square is equal to m1 square plus m2 square is equal to 2m1 m2. So we compare this with our momentum balance equation, which we have taken the dot product on both sides. That is where it requires the quantity P bar A dot Q bar A, that is equal to m1 m2 gamma P bar gamma Q bar 1 minus Vp dot Vq bar. So this is equal to becomes 2m1 m2, and that m cancels out and we get the constraint that the gamma P bar into gamma Q bar 1 minus Vp bar dot Vq bar is equal to 1, and from this we can get the angle at which these two particles are ejected, and we can also get the gamma factor, which gives the velocity of the particle with respect to rest frame. So this is how the kinematics of a relativistic used. You can given any observer, you can measure the energy of the force momentum. We are more or less covered the important aspect of special theory of relativity, which we would be using in general theory of relativity. So next lecture onwards, we'll slowly go into Riemann geometry and related concept, and then go into Einstein's equation. So I'll stop here, and I will continue with the next.